and welcome to the latest Forever Blue podcast. I'm Ian Cheeseman, the host, and thanks very much for joining us. It's free to listen, to subscribe, to share, to do anything you want, really, to let as many people as possible know what we do. And a big shout out to Timson, who support what I do. Big supporters for several years now of what I do. So a big thank you to Timson, all of their subsidiaries, etc., who support the work that I do. As always, I have a star-studded lineup today. Well, at least one star anyway. And that is Keith Curle, the former City skipper, who I'm delighted to say joins us for this podcast. I have got a couple other minor stars who've joined me as well. Paul, who is very conveniently, if you're watching this on video, still at the Etihad. Is it cold in there? I mean, nobody seems to have left, Paul.
No, I've still got my shorts on.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought you
yeah,
would.
yeah.
And we've got James as well. So thanks very much for James for giving us some more of your valuable time. So thanks very much to the three of you. Let's get straight into it. As far as I'm concerned, City at the moment are absolutely flying. Three home games in a row against three arguably tough opposition. Well, I say arguably because obviously it depends on your viewpoint. Bournemouth, fantastic team, easily dispatched by City. Dortmund out of pot one in the Champions League, easily dispatched by City. Liverpool, last year's champions and one of the three, in theory, title contenders, not only dispatched but easily dispatched. How good are City playing at the moment, Keith Curle? I mean, I heard you, saying great things about Pep on Talk Sport the other day. He's a genius, this fella, isn't he?
Yeah, I went to the Dortmund game, and I've got to say, even though the end result seemed quite convincing, the first 10 minutes of the game, probably 8 minutes of the game, there was you could see why they'd been so successful in their previous games. With I think they'd scored something like was it 12 goals in 12 goals in the previous three games. And you're thinking like this could be a difficult night for City in the first 8-10 minutes, and then there's a thing at the minute that sticks in my head is rhythm and tempo. When City get into that rhythm and tempo of their passing and their moving and their attacking threat, they're difficult to stop. And with sometimes like being a manager, being a coach, you sit there and you analyze games and you watch games and you think, right, well, how would I defend against that? And you're thinking the only thing I can come up with is I need to get two more men on the pitch.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
So when they're in that flow, they're unplayable.
That goal that Haaland scored, which I've watched the video that's been put up on social media, started in City, deep in City's left fullback position near the corner flag with Nico O'Reilly, and ended up going all the way through the team, all over the pitch, and ended up with the crossover and the header home. That is not about coaching. That's about individual players having superb close control, knowing when to pass, having faith in the teammates, and just taking it and just having the confidence to keep playing. That's something I'm guessing as a coach, it's more about the players and the coach, which is what he always says, Pep.
Well, the confidence is massive. But also belief and confidence in your teammates as well. And the one thing you find with when City play and when they've got that rhythm and tempo in their game, they're helping each other off the ball. As in, so the man on the ball will have two or three options. And again, you get some teams, and obviously I go and watch games now, and you get a lot of teams trying to replicate what Man City do, how Pep plays, and you can see there's some people that are not comfortable having the ball in certain areas, but you can tell they want to help each other, help the man on the ball, give him options, and then with good players pick the right options at the right time. And like I say, that flow and that fluidity in City's passing game is unrivaled in the Premier League, certainly.
Pep's always talked about wanting, ideally, 11 midfielders. He's now got two midfielders at fullback, and it's working an absolute treat, isn't it?
Yeah, again, far be it from me to ever question it. But you're thinking of, I watched Nunes play at Wolves as an attacking midfield player as an eight, and then you're thinking like, so in 6-7 months down the line, would I have played him and trusted him as a right back? And I've got to be honest and say I wouldn't have said yes. But you have a look at him now and you're thinking, like, the lad can defend, the lad's a great athlete, the lad can find a pass, he's got a willingness to get forward and still enjoys getting forward from that position. His understanding of the role within the team framework is excellent.
When you played for England, you played, although you were, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most cultured centre backs I've ever seen play. You actually were asked to play at fullback, weren't you? And does that teach you how difficult it is to do what Pep is asking players to do?
Well, I had three full appearances for England. I played left back, right back, and sweeper. And when I played sweeper behind Des Walker. And the fans that would have known and recognised how Des played, not a lot got past him. And so I felt isolated and thinking, like, what am I actually doing here? We don't. England never played with a sweeper, and it was a back four and me behind, and I'm thinking, like, nothing came through. And those weren't the days when the ball went back to the goalkeeper and you drop out. Like, those things didn't happen. It was like, all down one side, lump it into an area, go play fight ball, and then go and play, and hopefully facing the opposition's team. But no, and going on that, I played in the European Championships and I played at right back. I wasn't. I was selected into the squad as a centre back, and I think I was. Tony Dorigo, who was a left back, he was the first option of Graham Taylor. He refused and said, "Look, I'm a left back. I'm not a right back, even though it's the same position as a fullback area. He's not comfortable on his right foot, defending or in possession of the ball." Graham Taylor came to see me and said, "Look, I've got a thing in my head. I want to play you right back," and I'm like, "I can play right back." I'm just thinking, like, I want to represent my country in the European Championships. I don't care what position it is. If you'd asked me to play in goal, I would have played in goal.
But it's tricky. It's a different position, isn't it? That's what I'm getting at. You can't. I think there's been a lot of criticism of Nunes actually by City fans, and I'm wondering if they didn't realise how difficult it is for a player like him, who's been an attacking midfielder, to adjust to the different way that you look over your shoulder. You know this much better than I do. I've never played the game professionally, but you sort of have to be more aware in a 360 when you're playing at fullback, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. But again, if you have a look at probably City's best right back for a number of years in Carl Walker, Carl Walker had defensive frailties. I coached Carl at QPR when we got him on loan from Tottenham. He still had deficiencies in his defending at times, making the wrong decision, not knowing where his player was. It is a difficult position to play in when crosses are coming in. Probably not so much nowadays in the Premier League, where the teams have been reluctant to put the ball into the box. They try and work the ball in rather than crossing it in. But again, I think slowly, with a few teams, it's coming more and more back into play, as in putting the ball into the box against City, trying to find a weakness.
How good, Paul, has it been to be a City fan in the last week? I mean, I know you, in your position in the ground, are right next to the Liverpool fans, and I saw you put up a picture on social media of the empty Liverpool section. You've had a good week, Paul, haven't you?
Oh, my voice is struggling, if I'm being honest. It's been brilliant. I mean, you go from the noise of Dortmund, and it is a noise. It's not an atmosphere. I don't care what anyone says. He's banging a drum and singing nursery rhymes for 90 minutes. So you go from that and, completely battering. We battered him, to go to then a few days later play Liverpool, the so-called title contenders, and destroyed them. And their fans, I think they sang a little bit of something at the beginning. And they were going. Third, the second goal went in. They were a few walked. Third goal went in. They were off. Silent. It was honest. It was. I can't tell you how good it is, because when it's bad, where I stand, shocking, because you kind of have to look them in the face. You close up. You have to look them in the face, and if they score against you, it's shocking. But when you're beating sides like the good old City of late, there's not a better place to be in the ground than where I stand. It's fantastic.
We've talked in the past about the atmosphere at the stadium, and one of the reasons we've perhaps other people, not just me and you, have discussed is the fact that we're in awe of watching City at the moment. So people who want to shout and chant. Of course, they still do, but sometimes are distracted by the brilliant football. I mean, that's part of the equation, isn't it?
Totally. The word I use is mesmerised. I watched some of the movement. I mean, you highlighted that Haaland's goal. I don't know. I've not checked this, but somebody said apart from Donnarumma, everybody played. Everybody touched the ball. I think I put on social media it's one of the best team goals I can remember. And the other one that I can remember was another team goal by City. So it's just, when we're on it, we're absolutely on it. And there's not a team on the planet that will beat us. And the last two games we've been on it. And to me now we're just slowly creeping up. Nobody's talking about us. Everyone's talking about Liverpool and Arsenal. Happy days. Just keep this going, and we'll be there. We'll be there at the end of it, I think.
I don't know if it frustrates you, James, like it frustrates me, but when Match of the Day does sort of goal of the month, it's always a shot from the outside the box or an overhead kick or something. And that goal that Haaland scored, whilst the cross and header were relatively straightforward and the finish wasn't like, it was good, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't that exceptional stuff. To me, the goal of the season is a goal like that works your way all the way through the team with precision and accuracy and beautiful football. Do you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I always sort of think, what if Liverpool had scored a goal like that? We wouldn't hear the end of it for about 2 weeks, would we? And that's always the sort of the feeling I get with City. It's a sort of mesmerising is a really good word. I think we've raised the bar so much over the last 10 years. It's sort of seen as that's what we do. That's the norm. That's the benchmark. But it's so incredibly difficult to do. But that's the thing with skill, isn't it? Those who are really skilled make it look easy. And I guess that's what we do. I just loved watching us play this stuff again. I mean, I know like last season was a difficult season, but you can still see the DNAs in there. You can still see the intensities in there, the quality, the cleverness, the interaction, the adaptability. It's just absolutely fantastic. So I'm totally with you, Ian. And I'm sure the Liverpool fans must be looking at this thinking, why are we nowhere near like that with all who we've brought in? And, sitting there enjoying it very, very much yesterday, especially. But 3 great results and 3 slightly different wins in a way, slightly different ways of playing. I really like this adaptability we've got. It seems we can go into most games now with a different plan. But again, that's Pep. He's a genius, isn't he?
And how good is Nico O'Reilly? Because, City signed Aït-Nouri in the summer and he was going to be the answer to the left back position. And then suddenly we've got this player who ostensibly is a midfielder, but is actually, proving to be an exceptional footballer, physically a really strong player, but also extremely skillful and nimble, isn't he?
Yeah, he's absolutely amazing. I still can't believe it that, he's just in at left back. I keep thinking he's just going to do that for a bit and move centrally, but he really owns that position now. I was really excited when Aït-Nouri came in. I still think he's a great player, but now I'm looking at Nico. I'm thinking it's going to take a heck to dislodge him out of that. But seeing how he gets up and down the flank, and he had a couple of shots off at the end, didn't he? Where I think he was struggling a little bit with his calf, so not quite like the goal he scored the other week. But I think he's brilliant, and it just shows that Pep doesn't often keep players around like him if they can't do the business. And I'm just really nice. He's got an opportunity and he's taking it and got his England call up as well.
You were pretty comfortable, Keith, with both feet when you were a footballer. I know you were a right-footed player, but you were fairly comfortable with your left as well. Is one of the things that, particularly now, as a manager, as a coach, that Pep's looking for or his team are looking for is two-footedness. Because you look at Rodri, and he's extremely two-footed. You look at Chirk, who's come in, and my son actually said to me yesterday, we're having what is he left-footed or is he right-footed? Is that an important part of why City is so good because of the balance and the fact they can go either way?
Again, I think, yeah. So I was predominantly right-footed, and again, I go back to my early years as a professional, and I've got Clive Middlemass, who's sadly passed away now. He was assistant manager at Bristol Rovers and Bristol City, and I spent hours in the car park after training, just striking balls with my left foot. And that was because I was going to play left side centre back. But bearing in mind, I started out as a right winger, and let me tell you, I was never going to have a career as a right winger because I couldn't cross the road.
You were fast, though. You were fast.
Oh, again, you say that adaptability. I played in every position. I've played all across the back. I've played midfield. I've played up front because I was quick. So that education of learning different positions and having that appreciation of what other people need out of you at that particular time. So yeah, but again, modern day footballers now, the time spent with the football is a lot more. The individual skills, ball mastery, is more thought of. Whereas before, growing up before, when I was younger, should I say, it was more about being competitive games, competitive training. Now it's more about pass appreciation, control, move. And again, we go back to talking about Nico there. I thought on Sunday it was going to be Doku and Nico O'Reilly against Salah and Bradley, and I thought that was going to whoever the pair that won that duel on the day was going to be successful. When you think like Nico, not a left back by trade, defending against Mo Salah, who I think we've all seen. He's embarrassed a lot of people when he gets the ball and he's driving at people. Not on Sunday, he didn't.
No, absolutely not. He was in O'Reilly's pocket, really, wasn't he? I mean, when I'm trying to figure out what makes Pep a genius, there are so many different elements to it. The man management of multimillionaires, let's face it, is part of it. But what the thing that I can't get my head around is that when you watch other games, and I watched on TV other games over the weekend, and you see players when they're not in possession or they're out of possession, I wouldn't say walking around or being lazy. I don't mean it quite as cruelly as that, but they're not totally switched on. Whereas when City are playing, you feel like all 11 players are completely switched on for every minute of the game. The second one of them gets it, everybody's on the move, everybody's in action. How do you get, as a manager? I mean, you've been there. It must be very frustrating for you as a coach to maybe want that to happen, but to make it happen is another thing, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But again, you always work as a coach. You work in possession and out of possession. You have roles and responsibilities with the ball, roles and responsibilities without the ball. Even more so now in the modern game now, where teams are trying to create and promote overloads all over the pitch. So you can't get attracted to the ball. You need to know where you need to be for your team. And again, you look at the tactics of Sunday. You're thinking, right? So like, what was Haaland's job? Well, don't let Van Dijk have the ball. Let Canute have the ball, and thinking that he's not going to be as productive with the ball as what Van Dijk would be. He's not as crisp in his passing, and very quickly you're thinking, right, well, Liverpool are on the back foot now, because you're thinking, right, well, you're not going to be able to play out of the back with somebody who's not as comfortable on the ball as Van Dijk. Robertson, the left back, was more worried about pushing in and stopping that overload in midfield, so he wasn't an outlet at the back. And then you find how many positive passes did Liverpool play from their back line compared to City when and they played out, and you're thinking, within one or two passes, you're at Liverpool's back line. And again, you go back to Pep, nothing more than admiration for him as you watch games and you watch the intensity, the focus, the concentration, the determination within the players, not so much to please him, but to play the way that Pep wants them to play.
Any other club, and obviously I know you're a physio, James, but that's not why you're on all the time. You know, you're here now as a member of our squad. But when you hear Pep talk about Rodri, and you think of other clubs, I think Rodri would be fit enough to play for another team at the moment, but Pep's determined that he doesn't come back until not only he's fit, not only he's able to play a game, but able to play at that intensity that City play at, and that is fairly unique. It feels fairly unique to me. Can you see that when you look at Rodri? Can you see he's not quite there when he's played?
Yeah, I think it goes down to Pep's man management, as well as it's one of the many things I credit Pep is that he's clearly integrates well with the medical team and takes their opinion on as well. So it's understandable managers will want to have their best players on the pitch, of course, but there is that insight. So with a cruciate ligament repair, Rodri, due to his pre-levels of fitness being at that elite level, that's why he's come. He recovered quite quickly on the grand scheme of it. If you or I were going to have this operation, it'd probably take us around 12 months to sort of get back to doing what we do. So in one way, there's the physical capacity of Rodri is back. But a big part of where Rodri is I go back to the fact that he just won World Player of the Year. He just won World Player of the Year. You've just been crowned World Player of the Year, and rightly so. Suddenly, you've been this like machine playing 50, 60, 70 games a season, Champions League winning goal, like absolutely incredible. And then you get this injury, your knee goes, and that sort of confidence must have, I would have imagined, would have shattered someone like Rodri. And that's not in a criticism. I just think it's the reality of what do you then do? And I think so. There's an element of building a player back physically. There's an element of that sort of what we call that proprioception and that ability to transition with the ball and rotate and be able to do those kind of movements back on the pitch with confidence as well. And I mean, obviously Keith can talk about this more than I can, but at that level, half a second off what you normally are, I think that makes a huge difference in how you play. And I think it's Pep's respect for Rodri, a guy who's played in his own position, to give him that chance to really get back into integrating this. And when you rush cruciate ligament repair, like rehab, it often comes back to bite the player, sadly. And I think it's showing City just looking at the welfare of their players as well. My mate Liam, who's an Arsenal season ticket holder, for example, he knows a lot about the Arsenal team. He was saying it's the same with Ben White. We haven't seen a lot of Ben White this season. Apparently, a lot of last season he was playing with a lot of painkillers and pain prevention, and he's having now this rest at Arsenal to get himself ready and back. So I think Arteta's management, Pep's quite similar. So I think there's a lot of welfare going on, which is pleasing to see, rather than Rodri just being sort of pushed in to say, "Oh, go on, then give us a help," and then putting him at risk. But it's also, Pep, he wants that competitive squad, doesn't he? And he has given Nico Gonzalez this real chance to show what he can do. And that's worked out well. So, yeah, I think with Rodri, you're right, Ian, he's so good, even at 90% or 80%, he's still probably the best sort of holding midfielder in the world. But I think that, again, showing with City, they want to look at the long term. They've got to look at that long plan with him and make sure he's right. So I'm glad to see he's getting the time he needs.
I suppose players, Keith, and I bet you are one of them, when you're coming back from injury, especially because you want to get back in the team, will tell the manager anything they want to hear, don't they, to get back in that side. Were you like that?
Yeah, and again, as a manager, I was always very respectful of my medical staff as well, and you've got to be guided by them, and also the relationships that you have with players. What I always tried to do was have the conversation with the medical staff in front of the player as well, rather than speaking to the player separately, then speaking to the medical staff. I showed the respect to the medical staff and say, like, tell me now where the player's at and what the time frame is that you think and where he needs to be. And I think that builds that unity within the group as well, that there's no hidden agendas. The player doesn't come say, oh, they're holding me back, and then likewise, then you don't go to the player, can you play for me, because you're like, well, players want to play and they tell manager anything to get in the team ahead of schedule, rather than being with the physio department. So you have to have that trust and that relationship with your staff.
You must know how difficult it is, by the way, to keep all the players happy when all these dynamics are going on. Is it hard?
Yeah, very. Yes, but the one thing that you have is you try and be honest with all players. There are. I'll be honest with you now. At times, it does pay not to be as honest with certain players. You have to be a little bit diplomatic, because. But no, it's building that rapport with players, and you just say, look, I'll be as honest as I can be with you. This is a situation. You get players banging on your door. They're angry. They're frustrated. Why am I not playing? And sometimes they say, well, look, the harsh reality is this week I've gone for somebody else. Just purely tactical, whatever it is. Or sometimes it's one of those, you be honest with them and say, well, you haven't trained well. You haven't shown what I needed to see. And it's whether you deal with it.
When Rodri's back, Paul, having watched Nico Gonzalez now grow in that role, does Pep have a problem?
I certainly think so. I'm glad you brought that up, because Nico, every game he's got better and better and better. We've now probably got potentially two of the best holding midfields in the Premier League on our books. It's what a fantastic problem Pep has. We've now starting to build. We've had a complete rebuild, really, haven't we? We've lost a lot of seasoned pros, and we are transitioning. But all of a sudden now we've got young players in the team, so we could be good for another 10 years with what we've got. A few of us replacements, but if you think we've got Haaland for another 10 years and then younger players that are in the squad and they're performing like they are now, it's going to be a fantastic another 10 years, isn't it, for City fans? It's going to be brilliant.
We've celebrated 1,000 games for Pep. Can you see him doing another 1,000 at City?
I'd love so. I'd love to see it. Hey, why not? But to be honest with you, he'll burn himself out before he gets to that. I'm pretty sure of it. I've never seen he must be a nightmare to live with. You wouldn't want to be married to Pep, would you? Because it's literally everything he does is football. It's all about football, how we can get the best, how we can tweak something, how we can do something different. I mean, they're going about Alex Ferguson being this fantastic manager. I can't remember any club or league changing how they play like they have done with Pep. It's changed how football's played. Every single team tries to play it. I went watching my grandson the other week. He's 7, playing football, and they're doing it. They're playing out from the back. It's amazing how he's changed. World football, a genius.
I saw I heard somebody probably on Talk Sport actually, and I know you've done some stuff for them recently, Keith, talking about Messi in the MLS, and I suppose it'd be the same with Ronaldo over in Saudi Arabia. That the reason why their careers can be extended is because the game is not as intense. So Paul's just talked about the intensity of Pep Guardiola, which is there for everybody to see. And I've talked a little bit earlier on about the intensity with which the players for a full 90 minutes seem completely switched on to every minute of every game. Will the players burn out? Do the players burn out in the same way?
No, I don't think so. And again, I think with the squad rotation now, you got to think back in the day when I started, there was one sub. Whereas now you've got the options of bringing 5 subs on. So again, and again, but it's managing the minutes. But then it's not only when you're on the pitch being switched on, even when if you're a sub. Or a game changer, as you want to be called, that's sat on the bench, you need to be up to tempo. When you come onto the pitch, you need to be on the same page straight away. And again, that comes through how they train. They train how they play. I'm assuming I've not actually seen them train, but you can imagine the demands that Pep puts on them in training is exactly what he wants evidenced on a game day. Again, and that takes a level of concentration, of focus, determination, and also willingness. Because, like I say, that willingness to want to get on the ball and then also do the hard yards the other way when the opposition have got the ball, it needs focus.
Given especially what Keith just said there, James, when you're talking about players, managers and pundits often talk about how many minutes they've had, and they'll bring a player on for 5 minutes at the end of the game and say, I've given them minutes. But I'm thinking, in my head, and I'm a non-expert, right? So I'm just talking rubbish, really. But I'm going to talk how I think as a fan, think, which is, why do those minutes make any difference? Because all of them have trained with full intensity, presumably through all the training. And while they're sitting on the bench, as Keith said, they're in certainly the mental zone of playing, even if not the physical part of it. So this rotation, does it make a difference? And do the amount of minutes that a player get make a difference?
Yeah, it does. And I understand what you're saying with that, Ian. But the minutes is critical for a lot of players in terms of that, what we call that load management. So there's certain calculations we can use in rehabilitation to understand whether a player is overloading or underloading a particular muscle. So Cherky, for example.
Just to interrupt you, sorry, James, just to explain to anybody listening to this who hasn't met James before, James is a physio. So I'm not just asking him as a fan, I'm asking him as a physio. So sorry to interrupt you, but carry on.
No worries at all. So if we look at Cherky, he's coming from what I believe a quadricep tear some muscle in your thigh. There is an element of when that's healed, when you then try and load that muscle up to get it stronger and resilient again. What you want to do with players is not to, if you underload it, the likelihood is the muscle won't get strong, so it's more likely to injure again. If you overload it too quickly, you could also cause it to injure as well. So there is a sweet spot in where that is. Now, there are ways to medically get that right with, and minute ratios, for example, can be really important to look at that. So, for example, when he came off on yesterday, my first thing I'm thinking of is this looks like a good opportunity. He's played quite a bit recently, considering he's had the layoff. This wouldn't be a bad thing to bring him off at this point in time. Now, there might well have been a tactical point in there as well. So managing a player's minutes will ensure that sometimes you need to load players up. They just need more minutes. And sometimes they will have come into that game at the weekend. They might not have been at full intensity in the week, but they might say, look, Gaffer, I've got 30 minutes in me. I can run and do stuff for 30 minutes. I just can't do it for 90. Someone like Pep would be like, well, yeah, okay, that's better than nothing. So there are sometimes players where they might still do something, but not everything. Now, I do understand sometimes when a player comes on with 2 minutes to go, it sometimes looks a little bit like, what's going on here? But I am aware that, there are players, when you're trying to keep a squad happy, there are players who get appearance fees. And sometimes a way to keep them happy is to say, look, I'm not playing you much at the moment, but I can bring you on for 5. You get an appearance fee. Fans remember who you are, all that kind of good stuff. But there is also that element, you certainly see it with the younger players, that transition into playing in front of a full stadium, with that pressure, with that wonderful pressure of wearing the City shirt, giving someone what we call graded exposure to those situations about what it's like to play on the pitch, even just for fun. I mean, I would give anything to play on the pitch for 5 minutes for Pep's team. Even that can sometimes be used as a bit of, look, maybe a bit of a low risk situation, but get on the pitch, get your foot on the ball, play in that scenario. And those experiences can also be critical in bringing players through as well. So long story short, yes, certainly the City staff, I have no doubt they're using those minutes really well. But there's also, sometimes these things can be a bit fluid and they can be a bit complex. Sometimes you have to sort of play with those boundaries a bit. And that'll be where it comes down to the manager to make the final call. Medical staff will probably be a bit more on the cautious side. Manager will be like, the coaches will be like, look, we really need to win the game. So we've got this tactical element going on. I feel sorry for the players sometimes in the middle of it. But again, I think in order for us to get through this season and managing that squad well, I think where Pep has come to, he probably overplayed Rodri over the last year or two. He's probably going to be looking at the same again to ensure we're not going to do that. But we also need to make sure our players stay fit and sharp. So you look at Doku, for example, in his form now. Do you take him out? Because to manage his minutes, I mean, he's in the form of his life, isn't he? So maybe this international break has come at a good time for some players just to temper down those loadings and be ready in the next couple of weeks.
I'm sure City have got the very best experts in terms of analysts, both in terms of physical condition as well as tactically. And I don't know where you've had that level of support, Keith, where you've been, because City are at the top of the tree. But as a manager, when you come off the field, is that the first thing that you do? Look at tables of statistics and graphs and all that sort of thing? Because in the old days, I bet Malcolm Allison and, Kevin Keegan and people didn't as much relate to that as maybe the modern managers do.
No, I think Thursday and Friday prior to a game, and then Sunday morning is when I used to get the data reports from the previous game. And again, with all data, it's they tell a story, and then it's how you translate it, and you take out the bits that you want to take out. But the data is there to be used. Again, on Thursdays and Fridays in preparation for a game, you can give the players the data that you think that individually, collectively is going to be of benefit to them, but without overloading it.
And do sometimes you look at those statistics, like how far a player's run, and make a decision on who you select based on that, or is that not really relevant?
No, you take it into account. again, especially when the player's coming back from injury, you're mindful of the fact that of the load and the overload in the red zone the players can go in. So yeah, if you get the opportunity, sometimes you have to overlay that and say, well, I'll take a gamble on it. Again, going down to the individual as well, because you do get some players that are more robust than other players, and sometimes the position that they play, their demands will be slightly different about how dynamic they need to be within that role. And again, but you always have one eye on, you try and get as much information as you can do before the game, because you speak to the medical department on the Friday, and in the idea where you say, like, well, he's good for 60 minutes. If you can get him off in and around 60 minutes, try and take him off. But if needs be, I think he could last 70, 80. But and again, most good staff, they leave it with you, but they will give you a reminder, usually at half time. If he can do 60, excellent. But again, sometimes if you're 1-0 down and he's one of your better players, and you think, I can nick another 10 minutes out of him.
Let's talk about Doku. Paul, obviously an exceptional game, I thought, against Liverpool. I've always enjoyed watching him. His change of direction is sort of that first yard. When we talk about the first 5 yards, the first 10 yards, the first yard that he uses to get past a player, and then the immediate change of direction. We could talk about the physical impacts of his body on doing that, but let's just talk about how good he is and how exciting he is, and how rewarding it was to see him score such a brilliant goal. I was right behind the line of that. You were in a different corner, I know, but I was right behind the line. From the moment he struck it, I thought, that is going in, and that is a beauty. He is good, isn't he?
He's quality. I liken him to, I don't know if you remember that Jason Robinson played rugby league. He reminds me of a football version of that.
That's a great comparison, Paul.
Yeah,
because he used to change direction all the time,
he just jinks around, and the control he's got of the ball as well, it's stuck to his foot. I mean, we could see spells of it last year when he first came to City. We could see what he was capable of. But now all of a sudden the team we're set up better, aren't we? I think this season now we had that conundrum, I think, of what do we do with Haaland? I know he scores a lot of goals, but he was kind of a bit of a problem for us because we weren't set up to feed him to his best of abilities. But we seem to have, I mean, that sounds stupid with all the goals he scores, I know, but we seem to now have found a way to bring the best out of Haaland and bring the excitement back, because we lost that. Now we're passing with a purpose. Before we seem to just move, pass it about, tippy-tappy people call it. But now we've got a purpose, and that, the goal scored by Haaland proved that. But no, Doku, amazing. It brings back, we all love a winger, don't we? We all love a winger that can get us on our feet and get us cheering. And every time he gets the ball, you're on your feet because you know something exciting is going to happen. Not all the time is he going to score, not all the time does he get his crossing, but something good to watch is happening, and that's got to be great for football.
The very least he does is draw 2 or 3 players towards him and create space for the players. Where does Savinho come into all this, James? Because he's had a bit of stick on the podcast, in the crowd, on forums, everywhere you look. He's had a bit of stick, but I think he's played really well, and certainly against Dortmund. And when he came on the other night, I thought he did decently as well.
Yeah, I mean, he got a couple of assists, didn't he, in the Champions League the other week as well, and quite a nice surprise with that. And I think what he needs is one of those, like a Doku goal from yesterday. I think he needs his moment, doesn't he, to sort of cut in and hit one in. And we have seen glimpses of it. I just keep thinking, if Pep keeps playing him, he must be seeing something every day in training to be like, he's got something about it. So I'm going to leave that with Pep to sort it out. And I think you're right, maybe a bit more of he's getting that run of games, and that kind of, and confidence is a massive thing, isn't it? I don't quite know with the whole Tottenham thing in the summer. It must be difficult for a player when you don't know if you're coming or going. But the fact that he's now staying, and I think he signed a new contract, hopefully he now feels settled and he can do what he can do. I think he's got so much potential there. I think we just want to see probably a few more goals. But hey, I think he'll come good.
Right back to Mike Summerby, Peter Barnes, Dennis Stewart, Georgie Kincladze, and all of the wingers that we've seen in our history. I've never seen a player quite like Doku who can change direction quite so swiftly. As a defender, Keith, if you can imagine yourself on the pitch up against Doku, how do you know where he's going to go?
I think you don't. I think if you're defending against Doku, you have to do your defending early. And again, with the modern day football, you can't put him in rose ed without being cautioned. Without being cautioned. If he gets the ball and he's running at you, like you say, you just can't commit yourself. But then you're knowing that how far can you back off, and then you're trying to delay him, and you're hoping that somebody else comes over that can try and promote him to make his bit of where he's going, and then you try and deal with that. Because if you try and read it and react to his movement, you're going to be a yard behind him straight away.
How do you defend against Haaland as well? Because I know you had pace, so perhaps you might have had that opportunity to be able to keep up with him. But he just bulldozes players out the way, particularly when he's on that counter attack, and he intimidates them. And his pace and power is tremendous. And I did look at Liverpool in that game and think Virgil van Dijk has the reputation of being the best defender on the planet. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that, but anyway, that is the reputation he has. Why was he not the man? Sort of what? Not. I'm glad he wasn't, because he is physically bigger. But why? How do you stop a guy like Haaland? Why Liverpool couldn't do it, could they?
Oh, again, and I think it's a little bit like. I'll have to apologise for your viewers by mentioning Eric Cantona, but he was one of those players that you couldn't mark because he would go and operate in different positions when you had the ball. So you're focusing on yourself because you've got the ball, and then the next thing, then if the team won the ball back, then you're thinking like, how is he in that position over there? Because he didn't have an interest in going closing the ball down. It's very similar to Haaland now, as in if you want to go out and you want to man mark Haaland, it's when you'll find yourself stood in areas where he's not necessarily involved, but then within a split second, check your shoulder and he's gone. So again, can you individually defend against Haaland on a football pitch? No, you have to do it in units. So it's either your centre back and full back, both centre backs, or centre back and full back on the upper side, whichever channel that he's working with. Again, a lot of my Man United friends keep criticising Haaland. All he does is score goals. That's what he says. He said, but he's a centre forward. And that's what he does. You don't get many people criticising goalkeepers and saying, yeah, well, he's a good goalkeeper, but he doesn't put many crosses in the box, does he? Haaland's a centre forward. He scores goals. Very happy.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. And some of the comments you've made, if people listen back to this very carefully, are really insightful in the way that you're analysing this. So appreciate that, Keith. That's why you're on. Obviously, we're not going into an international break now, as we're recording this. And you've had the international call, and no doubt you've had players go away on international calls. Is there any danger that the flow that City have built through these last 3 home games loses a little bit of momentum when we come back in 2 weeks' time at Newcastle?
No, and again, I think it will be a rest for certain players, but with the international break, with most of the City squad, I think the training ground will be quiet because most of the players that are in City squad will be away on international duty, and this is a difficult time for Pep now because he'll be watching so many international games, just monitoring the minutes that people are playing, the performance levels, and also the travel times that they've used for when they come back, because traveling does take it out of you as well.
I suppose the good thing about the international break, and you're right in everything you're saying, but is that even if they play 2 lots of 90 minutes, that's less than City's schedule where they play a game every 3 days. So in the same period of time, City players, first team players, might have played 4 games, and in the internationals, the maximum they're going to play is 2, isn't it?
Yeah, but sometimes, agree. Actually, as in workload, maybe slightly different. But then again, depending on where the fixtures are, the travelling involved, and obviously you get international managers that don't have the luxury of having the players together as a group. So their actual time spent on the grass doing team shape and everything like that, it can be longer than what it would normally be. And again, that creates a level of fatigue as well. And again, that's why sometimes, and then even when players come back after international duty, sometimes you get players, they might have travelled so many hours, so many miles, and you have one day's rest, and then they're expected to go back into a prep day on a Friday, ready for a game on a Saturday. But in the ideal world, you think we'll go and play a game on a Monday, Tuesday, in an international break, and then get the player back late Tuesday night, and then let them have Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, reintroduce back into team prep.
Do you think, by the way, I know this is looking ahead a little bit, but next September, some people will have clocked this, others won't. They're going to have an extended international break. So instead of next year having a 2 week gap in September, 2 week gap in October, 2 week gap in November, they're going to do a 3 week gap in September and then just 1 week gap in November. Do you think the fact that they'll play 4 internationals and have a 3 week gap is good for the game or bad, or good for players or bad? What do you think, Keith?
I like I like the domestic programs. And I'm not saying I'm not patriotic and I don't like international games. I like international competitions at the international breaks beforehand. I don't really pay a lot of interest in. I like the domestic football. I like the competitiveness of it. I watch some of the international games and you're thinking especially some of the friendly games, the qualifying games, yes, definitely, because you're qualifying for big competitions. But some of the international friendlies, yes, good for players that first time call ups, first time opportunities to make debuts and everything like that. Invaluable for them. But some of the other games, I like competitive games.
I've got to say, even some of the qualifiers these days. I mean, 64 teams are going to qualify for the World Cup. It's almost harder not to qualify, isn't it? But I take your point. Just one final question then, and I'll leave Keith to the end on this one. We'll start with you, James. There's a 2 week break now, and then City come back with Newcastle away, Leverkusen at home, and then straight into the festive period, etc. Where are you in your head at the moment? You know, having watched City beat Liverpool very comfortably, see Arsenal drop a couple of points at Sunderland, but still lead the table. Are you? I'll be honest. I'll state my case right now. Before the Liverpool game, I said to my son, City will win today comfortably and go on and win the Premier League this season. Now, that isn't arrogance. If you'd have asked me a few weeks ago, I might not have said it quite as confidently at that. But watching City grow, that's where I am. That's how I feel at the moment. Where are you, James?
I think you make a great point. I think it's that growth it's surprised me pleasantly over the last few games. I mean, even just going back to yesterday, seeing us do some stuff, I'm like, that looks like the sign of champions, absolutely. So I can echo that excitement, and I really would hope we'll be in with the running of it. I can't shake the fact that Arsenal's squad looks very, very strong, but I do think they are struggling up front a bit, and I think it'll come down to if we can continue to get all these players fixed. It feels like it's been a long time since we've had a real fit squad, hasn't it? If we can get everyone back and we can get into that festive period, I mean, we couldn't have left into the international break any better, could we? I mean, what a way to get into that. So I think hopefully confidence is high, momentum is high, amazing. And I'd like to think we can keep going with this with all the squad together. I just look at Arsenal and think they are so well stocked in those, certainly defensive midfield. I think we're going to have a bit of a chance in our hands, but we've got the history of it, and we've got Pep at the helm. So I'm going to be quietly confident. So I'll be on the fence probably with this, but I think we'll be in the running towards the end of the season.
That defensive midfield has still conceded 2 goals at Sunderland, but I take your point. Paul, where are you?
Obviously, I'm the same as you two, to be honest. Like I said right at the beginning, nobody's talking about us as title contenders, to be honest. Even after battering Liverpool, it's still all Arsenal. Still all Arsenal. I said to my pals, I said, we'll know where we are after playing Liverpool. Up to this point now, this is starting to get to the nitty gritty of the season now. The first few games, the first 5 games are everybody's finding their feet, and there's always a team that hits the ground running. And that was Liverpool, I think, and they've well, we've seen what's happened there. City are perfectly balanced, right on the shoulder. We're keeping under the radar. We're just getting away. We're doing our stuff. We're going to peak at the right time, like we always seem to do. I can't see Arsenal doing it. I think they'll bottle it again. There's something in their psyche that you look at the fans and you look at the arrogance that they seem to have. I just don't think they've got what it takes like we have. We're serial. Every season we finish strongly. We'll see. But I'm with you, Ian. I think it could be ours again with a little trophy as well, maybe a Carabao Cup.
What do you think, Keith?
Well, I slightly disagree that we're flying under the radar. I think the performance levels and also the results have been noted by everybody. And again, am I happy with where we are? More than happy. The team shape, the confidence within the group, the competition within the group, which I think is massive. You're saying about Nico with Nico in midfield there. He knows he has to play well. How long can he keep Rodri on the sidelines? Even as fit as Rodri gets, how competitive can he be in his game to keep him on the sidelines and make Pep give him another week? We've got competition all over the pitch, especially in midfield and with the wide players. I love it when Pep plays two wide players, but understand you can't do it in both games. Silva, Foden, Mamouche, Reinders, attacking eights, tens. Unbelievable competition that we've got, and I think we're in a good place. I think probably if at the beginning of the season with the new introductions that we've had, if you'd said to Pep, would you settle for being second and this level of performances going into November, I think you'd be more than happy.
So we're all optimistic. I think that's the bottom line. It's been great to have the three of you on. Keith, thanks so much for your time as always.
Pleasure.
You're a superstar, Keith. Also, thanks very much to Paul and to James and to you for listening, and to Timson, of course, for supporting what I do. Next week on the podcast, there won't be a gap, even though it's in the middle of the international break. Rodney Marsh, Willie Donachie, and Willie's son, Dan Donachie, will be joining me to talk about sports psychology, to reminisce a little bit about Malcolm Allison and the old days, and a lot of great stories. I promised you that's on the next podcast, and then of course we'll return after the Newcastle game with the next contemporary one, as you might say. So look out for that. Enjoy the next couple of weeks, and in the meantime, just remember this one thing. If you don't remember anything else, it's always great to be a Blue.